This is the factory, a very common pre-generated structure in HBMs mod which can be found mostly in the plains and the desert biome but also has a chance to spawn in other biomes as well. It is 30 blocks in length, 15 in width and a total of 36 blocks in height. Now the reason that this structure is called the factory is because inside there are three basic factories, one of which is damaged and other two are intact. There are also other machines like the electric furnace, explosive barrels and normal furnaces. Also, there are chests containing various amounts of loot. So yeah, this structure is worth looking out for. But with a few tweaks and changes, you can convert this basic factory into a fully automatic uranium enrichment plant for HBMs mod like this. Now you put down uranium from one side, it will get processed, and on the other side, you will get fuel of uranium or uranium fuel. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get straight into the video and check it out. The very first step to making this uranium factory will be to clear out the entire space in here so that we have floor to work on. So grab any pickaxe with vein miner in it and clear out the entire factory and keep the loot as it has some important machines in there. Also, I like to clear the cobwebs on the top of the factory, and once you are done with both of these steps, this is how your factory is gonna look like, completely empty. Now there are a few tweaks that you need to make, which are like you need to replace these chisel stones with the normal cobblestone, and also as we want to place our ore acidizer where this chimney is, break two pieces of bricks on top like this. So two high, 1 and 2, and do this on all the four sides in order to make room for the ore acidizer. The very first step to building this factory is going to be our 4-time ore processing. Now this is optional, but you can also break the corner blocks like this. Next up, what you will also need to do at some point when you are late in this build is you will need to break the steel walls in order to accommodate the gas centrifuge, but that is something that you can tackle later on. Now here I have prepared a 28 by 13 area, the exact same floor area which is inside the factory. The reason that I am building this in the open is so that you can see clearly what is going on. So the first thing that we need to do is to actually place down our covered copper cables, the coated red copper cable that is. So place down 4 and then place down 28 in a straight line. The orientation of this entire build is the orientation in which the factory door is placed. Now also here place down a total of 13 and finally at the very end place down a total of 23. And don't worry, once these are placed, I'll give you the dimensions once again. So these are a total of 4 cables, that's 28, that's 13, and this is 23 in total. Alright, so once this is done, let's place down our ore acidizers. Come out 5 blocks, 3, 4 and 5, and then 4 blocks, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and place down your ore acidizer right here. This is the place where the chimney is. Count out 3 blocks from the ore acidizer and on the 4th one place down your chemical plant. Now this chemical plant will be processing our hydrogen peroxide, so place the template inside it. Once again come out 3 blocks from the chemical plant, 1, 2 and 3, and on the 4th one place down a crate. This crate will be the output for our centrifuge, so place a hopper going inside the crate and on top of the hopper place down a centrifuge, a normal centrifuge. Now from this crate that we placed, once again come out 3 blocks, 1, 2 and 3, and on the 4th one place down another crate. This crate will be the output for the electrical furnace. So place one hopper going like this, another one going in like this, and then another hopper which is going in this hopper here. So we have every output going into the crate. Then place down 2 electric furnace on top of these hoppers. There we go. So this completes our 4 times ore processing. Next up, leave a 1 block gap and place down a cyclic assembler from thermal expansion. Now this cyclic assembler accepts RF, not HE. So in order to convert the power from HBMs mod, we are going to use HE to RF converter. Extend the cables and bring them back here like this, 1, 2 and 3, and on top of them place down the HE to RF converter. There we go. Now while we are at the topic of power, place down 4 energy storage blocks like near the ore acidizer behind it, and in all 4 of these place down self-charging americium batteries. This plant when running will take up a lot of power, so make sure that you are using americium batteries. and set all of these to output mode. Once you do that, the HE to RF converter will start charging. It has a large internal buffer, so charge it up while you are building this so that you don't have to wait afterwards. Next up, connect all 4 of these via cables with each other so that they can share their power output. So connect them like this, and with it, all 4 of them will now charge up the HE to RF converter. Now come out 2 blocks, and on the third block, place a crate. Behind the crate, come out by 3 and 1. So 1, 2 and 3, and then 1, and place down a chemical plant. This way, the input of the chemical plant is directly touching the crate that we placed. Then come out 4 blocks from this plant. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and on the 4th block, place down another chemical plant, leaving a 1 block gap between them. This is important. Now this chemical plant, the second one that we placed, is facing the opposite direction as compared to the first one. Reason you will know why in a short while. Next up, let's first take care of our input to the ore acidizer. So place down a crate, and from the crate, place down your item ducts from thermal expansion. Now here, place down a servo. I am going to use the reinforced servo. Set the redstone to ignored, and you can decrease the stack size if you want. I am going to keep the stack size as 64, or yeah. So this is going to serve as our input to the ore acidizer. Next up, it's time to connect the ore acidizer with power. So extend some copper cables like this, and yeah. So the ore acidizer should start filling up with power. Next up, connect the chemical plant with the cable as well so that it can receive power, and extend some hydrogen peroxide pipes or hydrogen peroxide ducts going into the ore acidizer. There we go. Now another use of hydrogen peroxide is going to be for yellowcake production. So extend some more hydrogen peroxide pipes from the other side and bring them to the first chemical plant here, as yellowcake requires hydrogen peroxide. Now don't forget to connect all the other machines, the electric furnace, the centrifuge, with cables so that they can receive the power as well, the power from the battery, and they can start charging up. Alright, now it's time to connect these 2 chemical plants with power. So there goes the first one and the second one. Make sure that you leave the ducts in the middle and on the front side empty, as they are going to be used later on. Now this first chemical plant is going to be processing yellowcake, yeah, and the second one is going to process uranium hexafluoride. So the first one is for yellowcake, the second one for uranium hexafluoride. And uranium hexafluoride one, you will need to place water in it. So make sure to place water in the uranium hexafluoride production and the hydrogen peroxide production. Once you place water in the first chemical plant, it will start producing hydrogen peroxide and filling up the other 2. Now with this, we have successfully processed the uranium till it can produce uranium hexafluoride. Come out 3 blocks, then 1 to the right, and then once again come out by 5 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. On the 5th block, place down a steel crate. Behind the steel crate, place down 4 hoppers going into each other, and then 4 hoppers going into this from both the sides. Now we are going to process all the uranium hexafluoride that we produce in the gas centrifuge. Now extend some more coated copper cables like this and bring them out in this fashion. Next up, do the same here. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then 1 to the right. Once again, leave a 4 block gap, and on the 5th block, place down another crate. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and on the 5th one, place down a crate. Behind it, 4 hoppers, and then 4 hoppers going in it from each side. So basically, we are going to have a total of 4 gas centrifuge setups in order to process the uranium hexafluoride, so that this thing can run with the max speed possible. Now start placing 4 gas centrifuges on each of these hoppers like this. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and make sure to leave the middle one empty. Once you do that, the outputs of each hopper will be connected to the inputs of the other one. So we have the low enriched to medium enriched to high, and to the at the end it is going to completely deplete the uranium hexafluoride. I have made a detailed video on this, by the way. If you want to see on the gas centrifuge, I will link it down in the description. Now it's time to connect all the item ducts. So from the ore acidizer, first take out an item duct and bring it to the centrifuge for the 4-time ore processing. So bring it up like this and connect it to any side of the centrifuge. Here, place a servo. On the servo, select the stack size to 1 and the redstone to ignore, as we always want the servo to keep on extracting item when it has them. There we go. Now the output of this centrifuge is going to be in this crate, which we want to place inside these two furnaces. So first, place down 2 item ducts on top of the furnace and bring them out like this and connect them to the crate here. And don't worry about these other connections, we are just going to take care of them right now using the crescent hammer. The crescent hammer is an item from thermal expansion, and using it you can make or break connections like this by right clicking. So get rid of every unnecessary connection. So this once again set the output to ignored, the redstone output to ignored, and the stack size to 1. Now this crate is going to be outputting into the cyclic assembler, right? So set the cyclic assembler the left side to input, decrease the stack size to 1, and this cyclic assembler is going to produce uranium billets from uranium ingots. So let's do that. Place down an empty schematic and then grab 2 uranium ingots, place 2 of them so we get uranium billet, and now the cyclic assembler is set to produce uranium billets from uranium ingots, which we will receive from the crate in the left. Now this cyclic assembler will output the uranium billets in order to process them into Yellowcake. Now as this is already out the output side, you really don't need to place the servo, but if you want to, you can. So I'm just gonna place a servo and decrease the stack size again. So this chemical plant right here requires sulfur and the uranium billets that we produced in order to process Yellowcake, which will be outputted. Now we need to take this Yellowcake and feed it into the second chemical plant. That is why these plants were placed in opposite facing directions, so that you can take the output of the first plant and feed it into the input of the second plant. So there we go. Now that once this will produce the uranium hexafluoride, it will also produce the sulfur. And sulfur, we can pump it again into the first chemical plant like this, because sulfur is required by the first plant and fluoride is required by the second plant. I know it sounds a little bit complicated right now, but it will all make sense real soon. So just set the stack size to ignore, and there we go. Now connect all the gas centrifuge with power like this. There we go. And do the same on the other side as well. And finally the last one. Now we need to take the uranium hexafluoride, which will be processed from the chemical plant, and we need to pump it into the first gas centrifuge of each of these 4 setups. So connect 2 pipes here, one there and one there, and we need to do the same thing on the remaining 2 gas centrifuge plants as well. There we go. So now we have a total of 4 gas centrifuge plants ready to process the uranium hexafluoride. Next up, we need to connect the 2 crates in a single one, right? So take your item ducts like this and bring them to the outermost crate. This way, the output of all of these gas centrifuges will be in a single crate, so you can access them more easily. Next up, this crate is going to process fluoride, and fluoride is required to process uranium hexafluoride. So we can pump all the fluoride back into the second chemical plant. I am trying to make this as little complicated as possible, but yeah, this process is a tad bit lengthy, but it is worth it, believe me. The reason it is worth it is because once you are done with this whole thing, this entire plant will require no more maintenance. Like you put uranium from one side, you get uranium fuel from the other side. So get rid of all the unnecessary connections, and once you have placed the pipes like this on the reinforced servo, bring it down to 1, ignore, and here you are going to whitelist it. We need to set a filter here, as we only want this duct to extract fluoride, nothing else. So here go to whitelist and set it to fluoride. There we go. Now next up, on this final piece of copper cable, place down an He to RF converter, and in front of it place down a cyclic assembler. This cyclic assembler is going to process, or it is going to produce, a uranium fuel. So in the schematics, place down 5 nuggets of uranium-238 and 1 nugget of uranium-235, and that will give you a uranium fuel billet. With this set, a plant is kinda ready. Just connect this crate to the cyclic assembler, as this crate is going to be the output of all the gas centrifuge. And make sure that the side you are connecting is the input side. And here set down another servo, and in this servo you are going to whitelist uranium-235 and uranium-238. That is why it is important to set the filters in this build, because you only want the correct inputs going in the machine. So here redstone ignored, stack size 1, and in the whitelist section place down uranium-238 and uranium-235. There we go. So yeah, now place down one final crate, which will be the output of the cyclic assembler. Now the ore acidizer, place down one overdrive upgrade and one power saving upgrade. It is now time to place all the upgrades in all the machines. The hydrogen peroxide plant will take speed level 3 and power saving level 3 upgrade. Next up, for the Yellowcake plant, the Yellowcake producing plant, there is a speed upgrade 3 and the power upgrade level 3. There we go. For the uranium hexafluoride, speed upgrade level 2. This is important. And also power saving level 2. Power saving level 3. Now all the gas centrifuge will be set up in the same way. The first 3 centrifuge will have speed level 3 or the speed upgrade level 3, and the final centrifuge will have the gas centrifuge overclocking upgrade to completely process the uranium hexafluoride. Now one final thing that you need to do, I know, but yeah, the one final thing that you need to do is to restrict the output of this centrifuge by placing down the radium-226 and tiny pile of lithium powder in blacklist, not in whitelist, in blacklist. And with this, we are done. And we are actually ready to start processing the uranium. For that, you are going to need 1 stack of sulfur and 3 stacks of fluoride, which can be processed in the 4 times ore processing plant that we have made here. So place down the sulfur in the Yellowcake plant and place down the fluoride in the uranium hexafluoride plant. The 3 stacks of fluoride are so that there is as minimum downtime as possible. Now once you have done that, place down uranium ore in the very first crate. It will go into the ore acidizer, get converted into crystals. The crystal will be processed in the centrifuge. They will go in the furnace. The dust will be converted into ingots. Those ingots will go in the cyclic assembler. The assembler will process them into billets, which will be converted into the Yellowcake. Yellowcake will be processed into uranium hexafluoride, and the sulfur will go back into the first chemical plant. The uranium hexafluoride will produce uranium-235 and 238 nuggets, and also fluoride. And the fluoride will be sent back into the second chemical plant. Once this entire process is done, from 1 stack of uranium ore, you will get 3 stacks of uranium fuel billets and a whole lot of uranium-238 nuggets. You can use them however you want to use them. And the best thing about it, once the entire process is done, you will get the 3 stacks of fluoride and 1 stack of sulfur back to you. So yeah guys, that was it for this build. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, do smash that like button, subscribe to the channel first. Peace out guys, stay safe.